So it's really, really been a nice time for me, been traveling, teaching, and spending time with friends and family. So it has been busy, but also it has been very nourishing to be back here for me, especially at Dhammasara, where I used to grow up as a nun, and now here sitting in these buildings, which I have seen being built. The first thing I noticed after coming back here, after 3, 4 years, it's a long time to be away, was the trees. All the gardens and how big the trees have grown. And also the community also is quite different because there are lots of new community members, but nevertheless, it's really lovely to be in a very large monastic community. There's about 18 monastic members and 2 lay people here, so altogether about more than 20 people here. So it's quite lovely to be in a big community. And also I realize, the beautiful energies of different places. I mean, Santi is really beautiful, but Dhammasara has its own really strong energy and peace. And I realize how much I miss the Dhamma hall here. I'm right now sitting in the dining hall, but the meditation hall has incredibly beautiful, peaceful energy, which sort of draws you in to sit and meditate. Some kind of feeling, oh, this is what I'm missing. But anyway, don't worry, I'll be back at Santi by next Monday. So I don't think I received any questions, and I also didn't have a lot of time to even look at anything, but there is this sutta which I'm supposed to do for the sutta class next Sunday, but I also thought, well, I can still discuss with all of you today as well and see how it goes. So this one here, let's see how we develop. I have been talking about similar, a little bit deep suttas in the previous few sessions, but this is from Bhikkhuni Samyutta, because next Sunday at Dhammaloka Center in Western Australia, we are going to have a fundraising event for the project in Sri Lanka that we have been fundraising for. And soon after that, we have a Sutta class where both Ajahn Brahmali and myself will be co-teaching. And we sort of thought, being a weekend to raise awareness for nuns and things, that it would be nice to read out from suttas from the Bhikkhuni Samyutta. So this one is from Samyutta Nikaya, chapter 5, Sutta number 9, called Sela. So I'll read it out and let's see whether we can just, understand it, reflect on it in a way that brings inspiration to our heart. So here it goes. At Savatthi, then in the morning, the Bhikkhuni Sela dressed, and she sat down at the foot of a tree for the day's abiding. So dressed ... means that she went on alms round, collected her meal, sat down under a tree, had her meal, and after that she is sitting now under another tree and abiding. Day's abiding means she's meditating. Then the Mara, the evil one. So Mara is a non-human kind of, it's a non-human being, a special kind of being who has power over our, the sensual world pretty much. So anyway, Mara, the evil one, desiring to arouse fear, trepidation, and terror in the Bhikkhuni Sela, desiring to make her fall away from concentration, approached her and addressed her in verse. So this is Mara saying this. By whom has this puppet been created? Where is the maker of the puppet? Where has the puppet arisen? Where does the puppet cease? So the Pali word for puppet is bimba. And I was actually having a chat with Ajahn Brahmali, and he was telling the meaning of bimba really is very close to the English word bimbo. Don't know whether you know what that means, but it is like this made up, prettied up, kind of puppet-like thing, kind of really interesting, right? So the Mara is trying to sort of, and you wonder why asking such a question would arouse terror and trepidation in somebody, right? So Mara is not a Buddhist. He doesn't understand. He's not coming from a place of understanding Dhamma, but is asking, where is this puppet, referring to the Venerable Sela or that bhikkhuni and her body, right? Who is the maker? And how has it come to be, and how does it cease? And many people in the world outside of the Dhamma, if you ask this question, it is kind of concerning for some people, right? Where have I come from? What is my purpose here? Where am I going to? Actually, this last week, there have been many people asking, what happens when I die? What happens? And of course, here during our Dhamma discourses, we have discussed and addressed this question many times. But the average person, they really don't know, how did I come here? Where did I come from? What is my purpose? What am I doing? And of course, we see people dying. And also, where does it all end? Does it end with this life, or is there another life, or does it ever end? All of these things, what's going to happen to me, can be a concern for some people. Of course, some people are even scared to die, not knowing what's going to happen. So the Mara, the evil one, probably thought, just asking that question, this nun would fall away from her meditation. Of course, little did he know, this Venerable Sela is fully enlightened, right? She is awakened to the truth. So then it occurred to the Bhikkhuni Sela. Now, who is this? This is Mara, the evil one, desiring to make me fall away from concentration. Then the Bhikkhuni Sela, having understood that this is Mara, the evil one, replied to him in verse. So this is Venerable Sela's, Bhikkhuni Sela's response. This puppet is not made by itself, nor is this misery made by another. It has come to be dependent on a cause. With the cause's break up, it will cease. So this is a very deep kind of response. Anybody who does not understand the Dhamma would be very confused. In fact, the Mara wished to arouse terror and trepidation, but this answer would probably confuse Mara out of his head, right? Because it says this puppet is not made by itself. So it's like, it was not really created by myself. I didn't create it. It's not self-created, that is this body and mind. Nor is this misery. It's referring to this body as a misery. Is it a misery? Not for everybody, right? Especially the Mara doesn't think this body is a misery. The Mara thinks this body is there to be, having fun, enjoying the sensual delights, continue to live in samsara. That's what Mara wants. The Mara does not want anybody to get enlightened and end this journey. But, and the bhikkhuni is referring to this body as a misery. This misery is not also made up by another person. This was not created by somebody else either. So it's not created by yourself, not created by another. Then it's very confusing, right? Then how? How did it come about? It has come to be dependent on causes. So causes and conditions has made it to arise. And with the causes break up, it will cease. So this is what makes cessation or enlightenment possible. But, there is also this materialistic view. People hold this materialistic view. They think that, okay, when this body comes to an end, everything ends. Well, if that was the case, there's no need to worry so much and work so hard to get into deep meditation, sit cross-legged, go on retreats and strive, right? All you got to do is figure out a way of living life well, do a bit of good things, have a good time, you die, and it's all finished. So no problem, stay out of trouble. That's not too hard to kind of work out. It's not a problem. But the problem is this, it doesn't break up with just the breakup of this body, but rather it comes to an end with the causes, the right kind of causes, which sort of brought this into place. When those causes break up, that is when it comes to an end. And the big problem here is up until that point, as long as those causes and conditions are there, even this very body that which we can see as me and myself as a form, breaks up, the life continues on, life after life, and it is this rebirth which is a misery. Yeah, being born again and again and again, having to go through old age, sickness, death, having to be united with difficult people, being separated from people who you love, and all of these things that we have to experience again and again. This is the big problem, which is why the bhikkhuni referred to as a misery, right? This body itself, but not just the body, but also this mind, right? So I'll read the other two verses as well, and then we can try and see how to understand it. So the Bhikkhuni Sela continues on. As when a seed is sown in a field, it grows depending on a pair of factors. It requires both the soil's nutrients and a steady supply of moisture. Just so the aggregates and the elements and the 6 bases of sensory contact have come to be dependent on a cause. With the causes break up, they will cease. Then the Mara, the evil one, realizing the Bhikkhuni Sela knows me, sad and disappointed, disappeared right there. But here there is also a note from Bhikkhu Bodhi, and I just want to look that up as well. Let me just have a look at this note. So the Bhikkhu Bodhi in the note says like this. One key to this interpretation of Sela's reply is in Anguttara Nikaya, where it is said that karma is the field, consciousness the seed, the craving the moisture for the production of future renewed existence. The cause or the hetu then is the karmically formative consciousness, accompanied by ignorance and craving. When that dissolves through the elimination of ignorance and craving, there is no production of aggregates, elements, and sense bases in the future life. The imagery of seeds and vegetation reoccurs also at Samyutta Nikaya 2254, which also helps illuminate these verses. So sorry, I didn't have time to look those up, but even what it says, the note says here, is quite substantial to understand this as, that the karma is the field, consciousness is the seed, and craving is the moisture for the production of future renewed existence, right? So it's really quite good to reflect how we have come to be. So first of all, who do we take ourselves to be? So when we wake up in the morning to, wash our face and brush our teeth, who do we see in front of the mirror? No matter how much we know Intellectually, there is nobody here. But who you see is me, right? I see myself. So we very much take this body to be myself. So wherever you are sitting, if like a snake comes in or like some danger comes in, you quickly try to, protect this body from being harmed or getting into pain or even dying, because it is my body. This is me. It is difficult. It is, so we have to work with it. So there are some weird teachings and teachers, and then people sort of try to talk in very strange ways, trying to, talk in a way that there is no one here. But the thing is, Buddha never said like that. We have to use the feeling of this feeling of sense of self and work with it until we come to the point where we understand that there is nobody here. So up until that, we just have to use that. Okay, so I take my body to be myself. And then how can I understand? How can I look? How can I practice that I do get that understanding? Actually, this body is just a bunch of elements going according to its causes and conditions. So when you take this body, for example, the body is here based on some causes. What are the nutriments for the arising of this body? So the Buddha says to reflect on this, right? This is how we get to this understanding eventually. So the body is here based on 4 nutriments. What are they? So it needs actual gross food, what we call the things that we eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? So food and water. But the body also needs contact, right? It's really interesting. The Buddha says, body will come to cease if the contact come to an end. So we spoke quite a bit about contact in the last few discourses. This is our experience of sight. When the eye makes contact of a sight, that's eye contact. When the ear makes contact with a sound, so we have an experience of hearing, so that contact is made. So like that, there are 6 forms of contact born. So contact also is a nutriment for the body to keep going. This is why they say sometimes if somebody is in a coma, right? If they are lying, just make contact with them, like actually, rub their hands, touch their hands, talk to them. Yeah. So sometimes that is very helpful. When that contact is gone, sometimes they might come to an end. If you want them to continue, if you want them to come out of the coma, it is helpful, because somebody in the coma, it's very hard, we don't know. And often they say that actually they hear, but if nobody is speaking to them, if there are no sounds, if it is just mechanical sounds, that's not enough, but it's much more meaningful. If they heard your loved ones talk to them, say something meaningful, then it's a much more stronger kind of contact that might bring them out. So contact is a nutriment. And then the other one, so this is called Passa Ahara. First one is called in Pali Kabalinkara Ahara. Second one is called Passa Ahara. The third one is called Mano Sanchetana. And that is the thought formations, all those intentions. Yeah, your intention is also what keeps you going. It's a nutriment. And this is really interesting to see. Sometimes you see there are really some old couples, yeah, they've gotten old, but they have been very, very close to each other. They've been very loving, very close couple who lived a long time together. And of course, they don't both die at the same time unless they have a car accident or something. So eventually, one of them dies. And then not long after, the other one dies. Why is that? The other one may not necessarily even have any form of sickness, but they sort of lost their meaning for life. I mean, if they didn't have the spiritual path and things like that, if their whole life was about their, relationship and the family and the things that they did together, when their really beloved partner is gone, they sort of lose the interest to continue on. So they give up that intention to continue to live. So when that intention to live is also gone, the body comes to an end. You know, death can happen. But also you see the opposite as well. Sometimes you see that maybe it's a parent who is overseas is dying, and they are waiting for their children to come. They want to see them one last time. Their body is so ready to die now. They're very gone. They're so sick. But their will to live, will to continue, just keeps the body going. And they usually see the kids arrive at the hospital by their bed. They look at them. They might say a word or two, and then they die. Yeah, they give up. So intention is also one of the nutriments to keep us going. Okay, Simran already had a question saying, this happened to my grandparents. My grandma could not live 6 weeks without my grandmother. There you go. Yeah, this happens. Yeah, this does happen. And of course, the last one is the nutriment is consciousness. So when the consciousness departs, of course, this body also comes to an end and it dies. But that is not the full cessation, but that's just the ending of this body. So this form, this body that we take up as ourself is causally arisen when the causes and conditions go on. Of course, if we go without water for a certain period of time, or we go without food for a certain period of time, well, you know, we also die. And then what else do we take as ourselves? It is the feelings, right? The person who feels these things. Yeah, painful feelings or pleasurable feelings, any kind of feeling. We feel that it's I am the one who feels. This is quite a very common way of connecting to ourselves, right? So we probably have all of these things. We take our body to be myself. We take my feelings to be myself. And then, of course, you know, we also take the perceptions, the one who knows, like understands, identifies things, recognition of things. So perceptions we also take to be myself. And of course, our intention. So the one who exerts the will, the one who thinks about doing things, the doer, right? I am the doer. This is very common. I did this, I said this, I think about this, I exert my will. So there is that sense of agency who is doing things and controlling things. And the last one is, of course, the knower. Yeah, that is the consciousness, vijanati. So I am the one who knows and understands things. So all of these places we get deluded. We get, you know, we think that there is a me. So, and the reason for that is that delusion. Yeah, when we can't see things as they are, that is when we get under the sway of this darkness and think there is somebody here, somebody who lasts, you know, a long time, who does not change, you know, and also that things belong to me and they are within my control. This is this understanding, right? This is that what we normally feel. I feel I'm in charge. There is a sense of agency. I can control myself and I can control others. Even though we have failed many times, how many times could we really control ourselves or others? I, you know, reminded not long ago about, you know, not being able to hold up vomiting even, or something else. So many things happen to us, yeah. And other people, I mean, you know, I don't have to really tell you anything. We all know about this. But even in spite of that, we still feel, and we feel things belong to me, that this is mine. And then suddenly it gets taken away from us without even asking for our permission. So it's really beautiful, like the Buddha teaches in the Potaliya Sutta, which is Majjhima Nikaya 54. Like everything that we have in this life are like borrowed goods. Yeah, we have borrowed them from the nature. And first thing that we have borrowed is our body and our loved ones. and all the things, our car, our house, our everything. But we feel like I earned a hard-earned money, I bought it, I have a deed, I have all of these things. This is mine. Yeah, but we know what a silly thing it is. Actually, it was really interesting. Some time ago, somebody told me about one of this, the view or the understanding that some of the Australian indigenous cultures have about a home. Like in the normal Western or Eastern, our normal cultures, when we say it is my home, it is my home. I have a key, there is a gate, there is, I have bought it and I have a deed, it belongs to me. But with this, some of these indigenous cultures, for them, it is not my home. They build a home. It's our home. It is a home. It's a shelter, a place of refuge, a security from environment and, fires or heat or whatever, something that gives them protection that they make. It's a shelter. It's a home, but it is ours in the sense it's not just my family, not just my clan. For past, present, and future, everybody who passes by can use it, leave it, and they move on. Quite a nice thing, right? They build it, but they don't take ownership. Why? Because quite wise to understand. How can you take ownership? If you die tonight, can you take your home with you saying, this is mine? We can't. It's such a silly idea, right? We can see how silly ideas we have in our mind owning things. My husband, my wife, my daughter, my son, my job, I am this, all these things. How silly these things are. If they are mine, I can take them with me wherever I go from life after life. This reminds me, this reminds me of a joke. It's time to tell a joke. There was this really rich man, right? There was this really rich man, and he was getting sick and he was getting old. So he was thinking, now I have all of this, my money and my everything. So I want to take it with me. But it's difficult to take all these masses in this very form. So he decides, he sells everything and converts them into big gold bars, big like blocks, right? Gold blocks or something like that, gold bricks. And he puts them all into a suitcase, right? And he keeps them in the attic. He's very sure that he's going to go to heaven and that when he dies, he'll be able to pick them up from the attic and go on above, right? So, of course, that was his plan. So he keeps them on the attic just above his bed. So, of course, he's now lying in bed. Last moment comes and he passes away, he dies. So he sort of on his way, so his, stream of consciousness lifts up and then he, picks up his two suitcases with all of his gold bars and he goes to heaven carrying these very heavy gold bars. And he meets up with the angel. Right? And the angel is asking, dear man, what do you have in these suitcases? He said, oh, I bought all of my gold, all my wealth. Oh, you just bought paving blocks? The angel asked, because, the heaven is paved in gold. They just bought paving blocks to heaven. This is just one of Ajahn Brahm's jokes to just say what a stupid thing it is that we think. Of course, it's not anything that real, but even what we think as valuable, in different places and in times, it's not valuable. So in heaven, all of his wealth meant nothing. It was just, brick pavers, all this gold, what we value here as something really, valuable. But whatever it is this idea of ownership. Yeah, it's very still, it's important and interesting to understand all of these concepts, conventions, all these words are concepts too, word concepts that we take so seriously and sort of buy into without wisdom and get fooled by them. Even this idea of a being, what we call as myself, I am, and mine. These are also really strong concepts that we have taken on board. Yeah, and other people do that. So we start to believe and work with it. And then with a little bit of things, we sort of get a sense thinking, yeah, because I can just walk around, think a few things, move my hands and create few things. It just gives that feeling of being in charge. But when it comes to the real important things, we realize it is not. And this is why, even though the Mara was not really very smart, still he called it a puppet. And we know what a puppet is like, right? A puppet has these strings, right? It has strings on the hands and legs, and somebody else is in charge, right? Somebody else is moving, and the puppet's hands going up and down, and it walks around and moves it. If you've seen puppet show, that's what it is like. I think for a moment, are we like puppets? We don't want to think like that, right? We think we are not like puppets. Puppets are one thing and I'm another thing. But think again. Think again. Yeah, this is this idea of free will. We think we have a free will, but do we? This is where it is. This is where it becomes really interesting. We do have choices, but our choices are conditioned. Yeah, they are largely conditioned by delusion in the sense, a sense of self. Yeah, the idea of me and things belonging to me, and with a sense of craving and wanting and these kinds of things. So with this delusion and with this idea of this sense of self, which is the delusion, we are driven by the many things that we have taken on board. So for me, when I reflect like this, I feel the part that, sort of moves these strings of the puppet and make the puppet to move, dance, talk, do things is our views. The views that we have taken on board is what sort of conditions us to do what we do. So largely, there's a large amount of wrong views that drives our lives in general in the world. But when we come in contact with the spiritual path, with these teachings, then of course the right view also come on board. So right view is also there. But of course, this is when we need to have mindfulness. So if we don't have mindfulness, the wrong views, this is just almost ingrained like habits and instinct. So the delusion just drives our life like controlling a puppet in this way. So technically, if you just look out into the world, sometimes if you sit in a shopping mall or at a train station, and from a distance, if you just watch human beings, you do start to see, yes, they are all different people, but there is some kind of a puppet nature there, what they do, we do every day, how we do things, where do we go, kind of being just driven by this unknown thing, day after day after day. There are these habits that we have formed and instincts as well. And instinctively, we gravitate towards certain things, do certain things, and have patterns, certain patterns that we follow. So we get into the same kind of trouble over and over again. Yeah. Same kind of problems over and over again. And we wonder, why do we never learn and get into the same problem again and again? We see other people going through the same thing. In samsara, that is what we have been doing, being born again and again, going through very similar things again and again, just because we can't see. And we are pretty much being controlled and driven by this delusion. So that is what Venerable Sela is saying, that it is, created by these causes and conditions. And karma, right? Karma is the field. So she says it's like the the field. And the stream of consciousness is the seed. But even if you have a field, even if you have a seed, if there is no moisture, if there is no water, it cannot grow. So it is really the craving that actually continues us, makes us to grow. We spoke about this in the last couple of sessions when we talk about the Majjhima Sutta, the very powerful place about contact, the arising of contact and the cessation of contact, and how, the cessation of contact is made to disappear by the seamstress, which is craving. So it is the craving that makes us to forget about the downsides of life and sort of keeps us on to all these delightful things, however little they are, and makes us to believe and makes us to crave and run after these little things. And we run lifetime after lifetime chasing these things which are insubstantial, fleeting, and really not delivering. Craving promises so much, but delivers very little, right? We all know that. We look forward to things. We are made to believe so much. But when we really make contact, when we are experiencing that, it's only that much at the end of the day. But somehow the craving seems to sort of, stitch up the cessation, the ending of that, and it makes you to jump to the next one. So we delight here, delight there, delighting here and there. We keep jumping like a monkey from branch to branch, life to life, keep going, just like puppets moving around, like doing those dramas. Our lives like, we are being like puppet in a puppet show. We take the puppet show too seriously. That is when we cry, we laugh, we get scared, all these things. But sometimes, if you reflect, kind of our life is like this puppet show that we forget. We have a script. They are all really, all conditioned to us. We think, this is a very deep point. Sometimes it's really hard to understand also. But the more you reflect, the more you see yourself, how you behave, the things that you say, the things that you think about, very conditioned, always the same kind of thing. This triggers and you do that. That happens and you do this. They say this and you say that. It's all like tape recorded. Even I realize my Dhamma talks are like that. It's like a jukebox. That's why very often I want a question. Like when you ask a question, it's like that question is pressing the button of the song and the song comes out. It's kind of like it's, being saying it many, many times, probably for many lifetimes. And suddenly, that parts open up and it just comes out. That's actually true. I'm not just saying it, it is actually true. That's how it is. You can't even say, this is my Dhamma talk, I thought about it, or anything like that. We are very heavily conditioned. This is the time that I've sometimes mentioned. Have you ever catch yourself, talking away and you stop and say, hey, what am I saying? It feels like your mouth has a life on its own. It talks, habitually. So this is how it is. We are driven by these things. This is the delusion, taking charge. These are all these wrong views, taking charge. And this is also when we start to sort of wake up with the right view. So we now with awareness still find ourselves doing the wrong thing. So this is when, I have mentioned this before, like we feel a little guilty. Come on, I know I'm aware I shouldn't be doing this, but I can't help myself. And I still go ahead and do that. Why? The delusion is still so strong. The wrong view is so strong. So it's not just mindful. Mindful just isn't enough. View is also very important. It's the view and mindfulness and right effort together is what helps restraint, sense restraint. So that is why, if it is not there, it's very hard to restrain ourselves. The puppet show driver, the delusion is very strong. It doesn't let loose our strings, yeah? And we just don't have much control but to do what delusion does. This is where we make mistakes in our spiritual journey even, let alone on other times. So this is when we start to see the dangerous journey of the samsaric journey is very dangerous. So we start to see that, wow, the power of view. That is why the Buddha also singled it out of all the things. Wrong view is the most dangerous. Even if you are a serial killer or a thief or a liar or any of those things, none of these things is as bad as a wrong view. Because even a serial killer one day come to understand the path, give up that, and make amends and can walk the path and become enlightened. There was a serial killer like that called Angulimala. In that last life, he got fully enlightened even after having killed almost 1,000 people. And there were all kinds of robbers, thieves, all kinds of people who also got enlightened. But people with wrong views, strong wrong views, very dangerous. I'm also saying this and emphasizing this. There are all kinds of wrong views. I mean, recently, some people who I know for a long time came and was asking me and telling me, is there really rebirth? Did the Buddha really say there was rebirth? I mean, it's everywhere, all over the scriptures, right? Everything is based on the idea of rebirth. The whole path is about ending rebirth. Yet there are even monastics, unfortunately, spreading this wrong view, saying there is no rebirth. I'm sometimes shocked. So we have to be very careful, especially and when we broadly listen to teachings on YouTube. It's very important to find out who your teacher is, where they're coming from, where is the basis, and have a good grounding yourself on these teachings. So these are available thanks to people like Bhikkhu Bodhi and Bhante Sujato, who has done excellent translations, and Sutta Central. All these teachings from the Buddha are available free of charge. They are easy to read in really easy to understand kind of language. So it is really important that we do read and get a good grasp and understanding of what did the Buddha say. Otherwise, just because we have so much confidence in this teacher who says there is no rebirth, not the Buddha, but this present day teacher who's got a wrong view, and if they say there is no wrong view, then how would we live our life, right? If there is no another rebirth, no problem, like we said. And also people won't be that afraid to make mistakes or do stupid things. Not mistakes, I mean, you don't have to be afraid to make mistakes, but intentionally do harmful things if they can, as long as they can get away from that. And people would do those things. And there were people like that. So people who believed in wrong view, who believed there are no consequences for your intentional actions. They did all kinds of bad things, thinking there is no good or bad, there is no problem. You just do whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. And that's it, no problem. And there were people who didn't believe in rebirth, so they lived like that. And this is why, and there are, of course, other wrong views as well, but these are some of the most dangerous wrong views. So it is really important that we sort of slowly understand the right view. So that is when the puppets, the strings become loose and we are not so much in control. We are not being controlled by delusion. Slowly, we get more the right view takes charge. We are still conditioned, so there are still some strings being, it is still driven by conditions, but at least the one driving it is not delusion. It's starting to become wisdom driving us. It's a nice way, right? Nice way to think about that. It's a wisdom running the show rather than delusion running the show. So yeah, this idea of seed is the consciousness, and craving is the water, and our karma is the field. So it is all of our intentional actions by body, speech, and mind. That is our field. So it is depending on whether it is very rich soil. Yeah, if it is a rich soil with abundant nutrients, and if it is the right kind of soil for the right kind of seed, the fruits will be sweet. Yeah, when it's homegrown, well cared for, within very nourishing soil, something grown, it's really delicious. Yeah. But of course, if the field is very depleted of nutrients, very dry, very harsh, of course, the trees growing there will not be that well, very difficult. Yeah, so this is this idea. So again, just a little reminder for all of us, what is success in life? Yeah, success in life. So it's not about, your education, the goals you achieve, the kind of family, the connections, not those things which we spoke before that we have to leave behind. But what travels with this stream of consciousness is our karma, the intentional actions that we have done, the good and the bad. Yeah. So if you want to be successful in our life, this is where we have some work to do, right? In good and bad. And that sort of deals with this, the field. But of course, so these aggregates, that is the form, feeling, perceptions, intention, and consciousness, and also the elements, right? It's all the elements that gives rise to this physical body. And also the six sense faculties that comes out of it. All of these things, these sensory contact have come to dependent on these causes. Just because we still crave for sights, we get an eye. Because we still crave for sounds, we get an ear. Because we crave for taste, for smell, for touch, for feelings of ideas and thinking and memory, we value these things. We get these things. So there is this really beautiful sutta called Anathapindiko Vada. I can't remember the sutta number, but it is towards the end of the Middle Length Discourses, where Anathapindika was one of the Buddha's big benefactors. He was quite a wealthy merchant who really built a really comfortable monastery where many hundreds of monks could stay, and was very often supporting them with all the requisites, looking after, so a very great supporter. And when he was dying, it wasn't the Buddha who went to his bedside, it was Venerable Sariputta, who was his right hand kind of main monk, and his attendant Ananda, Venerable Ananda. So both of them was there by the side as Anathapindika was dying. And the last discourse they heard from Venerable Sariputta, who was, called the chief of the Dhamma general, was only next to the Buddha in his ability to teach, he was telling Anathapindika, please don't die attached to the I. Please give up your attachment to the I. Give up your attachment to form. Give up your attachment to sight. Give up your attachment to eye consciousness. Yeah? And give up your attachment to the feelings that arise based on eye contact. Because if you don't, then you will get an eye. So in the same way, he went through all the six sense bases and saying with understanding the hollowness, the emptiness of sensory experience, and the senses themselves and their objects. They are all empty and hollow. What are they empty and hollow of? A sense of self, something that is lasting, something that we think is beautiful, delightful. They are empty of those things. The beauty and the delight is created by ourselves. This is where, in another beautiful verse, the Buddha said, this comes up in Anguttara Nikaya Numerical Discourses, chapter 6, I think it is Sutta 63, Nibbedika Sutta. Sankappa rago purisassa kamo nete kamayani chitrani loke. Sankappa rago purisassa kamo tittani chitrani tateva loke asesa dhira vinayanti chandanti. So this is a very powerful verse where the Buddha says, it is not the world's pretty things that gives rise to lust. So a man's or a woman's lust is created by the lustful intention. So the pretty things or the elements, it's just a bunch of elements. If you see like really nice chocolate cake or a handsome or beautiful pretty person or a beautiful rose or whatever it is that arouse desire or lust in you, it is not the thing itself. It has the potential, it has some signs and features that could give rise to lust. But the lust is created from the views, perceptions that we have taken on board, which is also why to each individual it is not the same. Let's take up like a flower, maybe for some person a particular kind of flower, they say, oh, what a beautiful flower it is, and the other person say, what do they see in that flower? It's not that beautiful or attractive to me. Same with people, right? We are not all attracted to the same person. Somebody you are attracted to and another person find not attractive at all. So where is the attraction? Is in how you think about the person, the views that you thought about, what kind of body shape or eye color or hair type or whatever it is that you have valued is what gives rise to your attraction. So in this way, we see, how we create these things, but the outside form itself is really empty of any beauty or anything like that. We create beauty or ugliness or anything. It is only just a bunch of elements. So when you only come to that understanding, that we sort of let it go. Apart from that, as long as we do not have that understanding about even just the outside objects, about sounds, about form, about food, about smells, about touches, about ideas, if we don't have that idea, especially with the external sense bases, we get fooled. We get fooled by the wrong views, concepts, perceptions that we have taken on board during our long journey in samsara. It's not just this life. Some of these things has come to our stream of consciousness from many lifetimes ago. And by being fooled by these things, we get attracted or repelled by these things. So we run towards things that are attractive and run away from things that are not attractive. And this is how we journey, by get fooled. But in the meantime, we also get these things if we die attached to these things, like sights, sounds, tastes, feelings, touches, all of these things. Smells, all of these things, and there are corresponding sense bases, all of those, the consciousnesses, everything. So a being, this puppet, is created by this delusion. It's a bunch of things coming together, and when there is that idea, the delusion that there is me, a being here, then the being wants things, and based on this me and my wants, the whole world is created, and each one of us is in the center of our own universe. That we are the center. It's based on me and my things. The whole world is explained and related to and spoken and thought of. Check it out in your mind, how many times and how your thoughts go and where you are in those things. You are there everywhere. This is the delusion. So it's kind of interesting. These kinds of reflections can keep on and on. And my idea is to just trigger some inspiration for you to do your own investigation about this really beautiful verse about, all of these aggregates and elements coming together based on, so they are there just based on causes and conditions. When the causes and conditions break up, there is no more. So the last thing I want to say, we are like this flame. So when there is a lamp burning, right? When there is a light, when there is that flame, you can see a flame existing. Yeah, you can see its color, its light, it gives brightness. You can see a flame. So each one of us are like these flames. We can see somebody or something existing. But it is based on factors. It is based on the oil, the wick, and the heat. When the oil runs out, when the wick runs out, and when the heat goes out, the flame goes out. So this enlightenment or the complete cessation that the Bhikkhuni Sela is talking about is like that, the flame going out. So if you ask the question, where does the flame go? Is there a place where the flame goes to? There is no place. Yeah, it just goes out. It's a stupid question, you would say. If I ask somebody, where did the flame go? And it went out. We all know it didn't go anywhere. It's not existing in the world of where the flames go. Happily ever after. It's not a place that all the flames go when they go out. It's the same when this flame that we take to be myself goes out, ending. It's like the flame going out. Causes and conditions coming to an end. How does it come to an end? When it understands there was nothing to begin with. We were just fooled. We had the wrong view. Because of that delusion, we created, in the sense that delusion created something here. But when we have that understanding, when the right understanding comes, we realize, wow, this is empty. There's nothing here, nothing lasting, nothing substantial. And the flame goes out and everything ceases. So this is what the Venerable Sela was coming with. The causes break up, they will cease. Quite a beautiful idea, capturing the whole idea of the creation of beings in samsara, how they come to be, how it is a causal process, and how it comes to an end, and what is Nibbana. And she obviously have gone beyond, which is why she could really nicely say this to the Mara, the evil one. And of course, he was very shy and upset, or felt foolish for saying this thing to such a wise lady, and he vanished there and then. So quite a nice and inspiring one for me anyway. So that is what I have to offer to you all. Are there any questions or comments or anything else that you would like to add or ask? Please, you can unmute and ask or write into the chat.
Venerable,
Hi, Nicola.
it's Nicola here. I'm glad to hear you're enjoying being in one of your spiritual homes.
Yes.
I'm really taken with this image of the puppet. And the fact that it's Mara who introduces this idea, almost sort of tempting like a toy. But then I reflect that Mara, some people say Mara is just a projection of the three poisons and is not actually a separate being. What's your view on that?
It's not my view that is important. What did the Buddha say about this, right? Because that's what's important. Because I can't have a view because I haven't really met him, I hope. Maybe sometimes I feel I have met him, but, and it's also a he, that also the Buddha says. So the Buddha has made many places known who Mara is. Always says Mara, when whoever who is Maras change from time to time. Of course, they also have a lifespan. It always comes in the male gender for whatever reason. This is the word of the Buddha. You can check it out. It's in the Sutta. I can't remember the discourse. I will be able to find out, or you will be able to actually word search and find it, but also it is actually a being. Yeah, so it is a heavenly being, actually. It lives in Paranimita Vasavatti, that is his realm. So it is a heavenly being, but it is one of the very topmost. It is only before the Brahma realms. So all the other heavenly realms are also under the control of Mara. So even the heavenly beings are controlled by Mara. He's a very powerful being whose power is exerted through the six sense bases. That's his terrain. So when we are unguarded, we are under his power, his control. So with the delusion and without mindfulness, we are his slave. But there is a being, he also has an army, he has other beings working and doing. And yeah, this is all, it's not just a view, it's not an understanding, it is what the Buddha says. And Mara came many times and confronted the Buddha, had conversations with him. Mara was following him for many years. He didn't want the Buddha to become enlightened because he doesn't like being escaping samsara. He wants everybody to stay there because he wants his playthings to play. And he's like, I don't know whether he enjoys seeing us enjoying and suffering and going about in life, but he seems to want to, control us. But he controls us through this greed, hatred, and delusion, through the six sense bases. So, but he is definitely a being according to the Buddha, and there are many suttas to understand this. Yeah, thanks for that question.
Thank you, Ayya. That was a misunderstanding I had. So thank you for referring me back to the Sutta.
Good. Okay, so, okay, I'm glad you like the puppet, Aisha. Okay, BE says, thank you for the wonderful Dhamma sermon. The reference to the puppet is so appropriate and can be related to most, if not all, for all living. Yeah. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you and all the participants. Thank you. Such a nice thing. That's why I sometimes really love the verses, yeah, because we all know the teachings so much. I mean, there's not so many teachings that are necessary for us to get enlightened, but what we need is inspiration to keep going. So things like this sometimes, shows another angle, spark a bit of inspiration, and it gives a bit of, nice feeling to continue, see things in a new light. And it broadens our view. It gives opportunity for wisdom to grow. So that is why I really enjoy verses. So when I have nothing else to say, when nobody tells or asks a question, verses is what you are going to get. I'd love to understand more about compassion. And Arahant no longer has desire. 9 things an Arahant can't do. But she or he still desires all being to be happy, well, and free from suffering, and still has the movement of mind to help others. I'd like to notice which movements of mind are compassion in the path, and if we should cultivate in an action. This is an excellent topic for another Dhamma talk. Actually, this is a very good one. And compassion sometimes can go counterproductive too when the delusion comes and defiles it. Right? So this is a very excellent topic. So can I please save it for a future Dhamma talk, because we've already gone over time. And it will take me a long time, but it will be a very nice Dhamma talk. So I'll leave it for a future Dhamma talk on compassion. Thank you so much, Ayya, for today's talk. I'd like to listen to it again. Please send yes with pleasure, because I'm really busy right now. Tomorrow I'll be giving the Dhamma talk from our Dhammaloka Center, Friday night talk. If you would like to join us online, that will be live streamed at 8 o'clock. It's quite late for you guys in Sydney, and of course, very late for people from New Zealand, but that will be recorded. And then I think on the weekend, Saturday, we have the meditation, but I'm also doing the book club. I believe it is at 4 o'clock Perth time, which is not too bad. And I'm going to be doing a book called Atomic Habits, but I'm going to be doing, hopefully, building very practical habits to develop our spiritual path, things that we can ingrain. So you can join me with along the book club. It's also live streamed through Buddhist Society of Western Australia. So maybe somebody can put it onto the Santi chat. I think it is already available. And if not, you can listen later, but I'm very busy and excited doing all these fun things with people over here. And then Sunday, we have the Sutta class at the end with Ajahn Brahmali, but we also have a very exciting fundraising event, also live streamed. You are all welcome to join and find out more about our project in Sri Lanka. And you can show our support. So that's a bit of advertising from me, doing my little job to spread the word about various things. So thank you all for joining, and see you again next week.